All right, good evening. We'll go ahead and get started. I am the designated hitter for this evening's class. I'll go ahead and start us off with a prayer, and then we'll get into the class. Father, we're so thankful for all the ways that you continue to bless us. We're so thankful that you left us with your word. We are so blessed to have that. And we know that as we come to know that word, that it can instruct us in all that we need for everything that we do in our life, Father. And we're so thankful that we have it, and we just ask that you would help this evening, that you would help me to lead the discussion on a portion of your word that would help to edify us all, help us to be more as you would want us to be, and help strengthen us as well. We truly are blessed in all things, and we give you thanks. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. I don't know. Yes, I did turn it on. And it is still on. I'll talk loud. Okay. So Micah 6:8 is actually one of my favorite verses in the Bible. It is very instructive, but as I got into the study this evening and started looking more at the context and the way it was framed, it was even more helpful. I hope you had an opportunity to look at some of the questions. I don't think we're going to get through 10 questions, but I thought all of those were just helpful and kind of instructional. But the discussion tonight is, what does the Lord require? And I just ask you a question as we go into class. So if God asks you tonight, with what shall you come before me? What would your answer be? And you don't have to answer that, but in your mind, just think about what would your answer be? What would you be able to say about yourself if God were to ask you that tonight? So we're going to take a look at his answer to that question as we go through the study this evening. So the big picture message is that God is not appeased by extravagant or even regular religious rituals or sacrifice. And it doesn't matter how costly those things are. And he's already told us what real faithfulness means, and that it consists in doing justice, loving kindness, and walking humbly daily with him in dependence upon him. And that's the big picture, and that's what we're going to look at this evening. So for context, Micah 6:8. So the biblical record of the period shows that there were bad kings, and we've talked about that. If you've been in some of the different classes, we've been talking about that, and Dwayne's been highlighting some of that from the pulpit. So there were idolatrous practices under King Ahaz. They reshaped temple worship. Wealthy leaders were exploiting the vulnerable by seizing land and homes, and Micah talks about that in chapter 2. The courts are corrupted by bribery and injustice, and that's discussed in Micah chapter 3. And the religious leaders are serving for payment rather than truth. And that comes in Micah chapter 3 as well. So God brings what's known as a covenant lawsuit, and this has been a fairly common practice that we see in the Bible, where he brings a structured case against his people. It kind of has these different elements to it. A summons, witnesses are called, often heaven and earth, which are kind of permanent structures, and that's what he calls, as we'll see in our study this evening. There's an indictment and accusation. He lays out the charges. He provides the evidence, both of his past grace and his faithfulness, and of their faithlessness. There's an opportunity for the defendant to respond. And then there is God rendering judgment. Or, as he does in this case, he gives a clear path forward. So thinking about the verse that we're studying tonight, and this was the first question that I posed to you. So what's the significance of God framing this as a lawsuit rather than just giving an instruction? So there's a contrast to giving an instruction, but it's more laying out the case that he does. What's the significance of that, or what's the benefit? Anybody have any thoughts or ideas? Oh, there we go. Go ahead, Bonnie.
I think just giving instruction, you could get a pass or fail grade maybe, but a lawsuit is even in today's time, there's going to be a verdict, and God is going to give a verdict, and it's much more, it should be much more significant and important to the people than if he just said, oh, don't forget, you need to do this.
I think that's a good point. This isn't really a sports analogy because my wife hates sports analogies, so it's not really a sports analogy. I coached youth soccer, okay? For a period of time, I coached youth soccer, and you give instructions, and you can just imagine as you're giving the instructions, every kid out there is thinking, when are the rest of you going to do that? Okay? And so, without the kind of the evidence, the things that kind of brings that home, instruction doesn't necessarily have the same impact, I think, because there's a lot of tendency of, the rest of you need to get your act in order, right? When you get an instruction, and so I think that's certainly a great point. This puts sin in the frame as a breach of the relationship. So you're pointing out that there is a breach here, and it's not based upon ignorance, and that makes it obviously more impactful when you consider it as in that manner as a breach of the relationship. The fact that you have witnesses kind of emphasizes the seriousness of the particular transgression. So anybody else have any other thoughts on that first question? Okay, so God actually starts in Micah starts speaking as a prophet. He starts with a judicial summons, and this was a summons in Micah 1:2. And so from the whole beginning, the prophecy that we have here is courtroom language. Micah 1-5, if you had a chance to read that, kind of sets the stage. Chapters 1-3, God lays out the charges of injustice and corruption. The land seized from the vulnerable in Micah 2. The leaders exploit rather than protect. Mentioned earlier that the prophets and the priests serve for money. But then in chapters 4 and 5, God lays out this future hope that he will establish his kingdom. He'll bring peace among the nations. That's in Micah 4. And he's going to bring a ruler, which he talks about in Micah 5. That's going to come from Bethlehem to shepherd God's people. So by the end of chapter 5, when we get to chapter 6, which is the focus of our study, so the case against the present injustice has been established. The promise of future restoration is given, and there's an unresolved question. And that unresolved question is, what kind of people belong to that future? And we're going to answer that here in chapter 6. And so that's where we find ourselves as we get into chapter 6, is looking for the answer to that question of what does it take to belong, to have a long-term covenant with God. Okay, so chapter 6, I apologize, it's a little bit better. That's better than the one in the back. It's formatted for that one. Okay, good. So it answers that question in courtroom form. Again, God summons the mountains, the hills, the foundations of the earth as witnesses and as a jury. So creation itself is going to testify. Verses 3-5, it comes as a question. Oh, my people, what have I done to you? How have I wearied you? And then God reminds them of his saving acts. The exodus from Egypt, sending Moses, Aaron, and Miriam as leaders, protecting them from Balak and Balaam's curse. Grace comes before before the indictment. And that brings us up to Micah 6, verse 6 and 7. Micah 6, 6, 7. With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? So why do you think the people responded with increasingly extravagant offerings to God in verses 6 and 7. So why do you think they responded that way? And what's that reveal about their view of God and worship? We have some couple up here.
They see worship as a transaction rather than a relationship in the heart with God. It's transactional to them, and that's what they're trying to do.
And that's
buying favor.
Of Mary here.
That's pretty much what I have. They can not change their heart. They can just pacify him with a gift. They're just by his favor without having to change. It's sort of like paying bail. But I read a commentary that says that it hints that no matter what they do, God is never satisfied. Depending on the tone of these words, it's like, well, we could give you all this stuff, but you'll still never be satisfied. So that was just one commentary I read that said that.
And I think that is a good point, that's not what he's looking for. I think the other thing that came out as I was thinking here was, how much just tell me how much you want me to pay. Just tell me, and then I'll do that so I can check the box like Tim says. Go ahead.
Well, that kind of does, that's what I was going to say. On a certain level, it's easier. We just give me like the do's and don'ts and the boxes to check. Like it's a lot easier on a certain level to just buy the favor, it's simpler. We as humans, we like to shortcut.
We like to check the box.
Yeah.
We just want to know.
So
tell
it's
me,
a lot harder to do.
Tell me what I want to do, because I don't want to do any more. Just tell me what I want to do. So, Jason, go ahead.
I think it represents a fundamental misunderstanding on Israel's part of who God is and what he wants. They think he is interested in things. He created all these things. If he wanted things, he could. So they don't understand the purpose of the sacrifices that he wants from them. You can go on later into Malachi when he talks about that. You're going through the motions. You don't care about me. You don't love me. So to kind of everybody's point, they're focused on having to give God things instead of understanding that what God wants is them.
I think that's a great comment as well. In the interest of time, we're going to keep moving, but I think we understand what the error is there. But what does that look like today? What does that look like for us? How do we fall into that same pattern? Anybody have any thoughts on that particular part of the question? Oh, we got Noah in the back.
I'd have thought when it's kind of like avoiding or easy when you make something that seems religious more important than what God has actually said. Kind of like the Pharisees, they made their traditions more important, and so it's you're kind of performing and telling yourself that you're doing well because you're holding up these things, but really you're neglecting the more important things.
Right. I mean, just the showing up, right? I mean, you have this tradition that you're not, for the sake of the assembly, so you're here, but just being here, really, again, that's an example of, well, gee, I come to church every time we meet. Aren't I doing what I need to be doing? And so I think just seeing that as something, I think in our giving, particularly we can be, how we approach our giving, to feel like as, this is what I have to do versus this is what I want to do? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think sometimes when it comes to the public worship, some congregations get into this trap of wanting the worship service to run perfectly every time. We have 5 songs and the sermon's this long and everything's just so, instead of thinking, well, how long does a sermon need to be to get across the point that the congregation needs this week? Or how many of these songs should we be singing because, this is where everybody's at and this is kind of the overall theme maybe that we're going with or whatever. And sometimes it's easy to make everything look perfect when maybe the heart isn't completely in line.
No, I think that's a great point. That different way of looking at that point for me is just, if I'm there and I'm having a problem with the teaching's not working for me, for example, the problem is probably with me. And I think that's another way where, again, I'm here, I'm in a class, I want to get instructed, but, turning it towards outward is that's the problem. I'm not the problem. Go ahead, Tim.
I was thinking about Jesus is dealing with the Pharisees in Matthew 23, where he's, this is where he says, whoa, 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 to the Pharisees over and over and over and over. And one of them is, you're shining up the outside of the cup, but you're, not really taking care of the inside. And what it is it's this idea that we're trying to impress God rather than serve him. And when you kind of read through that, I think that we can do that today. We're not careful. We try to impress him with the things that we do in the manner that we do them in the format rather than serve him. And that's the difference.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there, maybe I'm on the wrong track here, but is there some pretense that the people believe that these offerings are something somehow that because of their hard work and because it comes from them and they deserve credit for what it is that they're giving, that look, we've worked hard and we've done this, and this is, you should be happy with what we give, rather than realizing, everything's from God. Is that part of what you're thinking or not?
Well, I do think that they think it's transactional, that they just need to do certain things.
In addition to that, it seems like there's a sense of, we're giving you our, flocks, and we're giving you our rams, and we're giving you our oil, and so somehow he should be impressed with what they have done, not just that it's transactional, in addition to the transaction. Maybe
I think that you can take that from the passage, certainly, that yes, they feel like he should be satisfied with that they should, and that they're doing, and they've been doing ever increasing things, and they feel like he should be satisfied with that. Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
I think it goes back again, is that they're doing things for the wrong reasons. And real brief, their attitude is, if we do this, we deserve something from God, instead of, we're going to do this because God deserves it. And I know that may seem like a small difference, but it's huge. I think it's the totality of what God has accused them of. You're not serving me because you love me. You're not serving me because you're honoring me as your creator. You think you're buying me off.
I think that says, really well about the right reason and the wrong reason, where, and that's why when you go back to that lawsuit framework, God always included, here is what I have done for you. And because I've done this for you, I should be getting these things from the heart. And that's really, I think, one of the big messages to take out of this. And if we get down to the last question, that's kind of what's going to be highlighted in that point, is that God is always starting with, look at the things that I've done with you. He starts it in all this discussion. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. move on to now Micah 6:8, and it starts with, "He has told you, O man, what is good." And so Micah is acknowledging on behalf of God that he's already told them what is good, and goes on, "And what does the Lord require of you? But to do justice and to love kindness and to walk humbly with your God." So Micah 6:8 began with that acknowledgement that God had already made known his requirements. Why do people often search for new answers when God's will is already known? Anna?
Well, I think with traditional teaching, or what we teach, that people want it to meet their own lifestyle and stuff, so they seek an interpretation of the scriptures that suits them
Yeah, no,
more
I think
than
that's
anybody else.
I think that's a great point. Some other thoughts on this particular topic? I mean, a lot of times obedience is harder than trying to get new information, and that goes along with what Anna said, that we're always looking for something new rather than accountability for something in the past. And I think also, again, they think their activity replaced their moral requirements. And so that's why they've overlooked kind of where he's laid out what the moral requirements are. So go ahead, Bonnie.
If they're studying the scriptures and they come across something that they really don't like, then they want to search around and see, well, maybe we can find something else that'll offset this and make God happy. But I don't really like that verse,
Yeah, I know. I think Terry's got something here, and then we'll go ahead and move on.
Just like in the parable of the Good Samaritan with the lawyer seeking to justify himself. That's why we're always looking for new religious answers, because we want to justify ourselves.
Yeah, we want to justify how we're acting, and so we want to find ways to justify us. I think that's a great point. Go ahead, Daniel.
It's just like in legal proceeding. I like that Micah said into it, the legal proceeding here. It's everybody wants to get to as close to the law on the line as we can go, right? We want to see how fast can we go past the speed limit that does not give us the ticket. Well, we don't know that threshold until we go over that threshold and we get the ticket, right? Religion is the same way. And people want to go as close to how close to that line can I get without going over? But they don't know they went over the line. So they go searching for other answers. They're going like, well, the line's down here, right? So they're going to go all the way down here to that line. And it's what everybody should say, and it's just you're going farther and farther away to suit your own needs, to push that line forward.
Yeah, great comments. Great comments from everybody. So after advising them that he's told them what they need to do, he goes in to describe it. And it starts with doing justice. Doing justice, the Hebrew word is mishpat. It's a very rich word. It can refer to legal decisions, verdicts, or a broader concept of the right order and equity in society. And it's used in the prophets. It goes far beyond just fairness. It's about actively upholding God's standards of righteousness. It includes restoring what is broken, defending the vulnerable, and ensuring that power is not abused. So what's it mean to do justice in Micah's context? How can Christians practically do justice in everyday spheres? How can we do it in our daily lives? Anybody have any thoughts on that issue?
Well, I think he's just saying it's very simple. Doing justice is just acting fairly. It's the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you just follow the golden rule and treat people the way you want to be treated, that'll, because we all want to be treated in a just manner. Other ideas on how in our daily lives what does justice do? One of the thoughts that that I saw was, and this could be in the workplace, where you have junior staff who don't have people advocating for them, and you can advocate for them and help put them on an equal footing, make it fair for them as well, if they're not getting the same support and attention as others in the workplace. Just ensuring fair treatment for people. So I think and we can take these things practically in our daily lives as to how we can support do justice, because the phrase is do justice. So we can take that to our family, just making sure our aging parents are taken care of. As another example, I think, so any, just a lot of different ways, obviously, where we're doing justice in our daily life, can be brought out. Anybody else have any other? Yeah, we have something back there. Scott.
Well, from a young age, we learn right from wrong, or we should. And as we continue in our life and mature, that pattern shouldn't change from doing good, doing justice, justice, living that type of life, being that type of an individual. We just, we can't cross over. We have to maintain that focus. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think just a focus on things being fair and helping out those that are less fortunate, so that they can have an equal measure of the benefits that our life has to offer. Anybody else? Oh, Emery, go ahead, and then we'll move on.
In front of the word justice is the word due. And it makes me think about, it's doing nothing is almost as bad as doing an injustice. My point is that being impassive is not a good thing. Being involved, engaged is important as a part of this idea.
I think that's the point. And I actually think that's the point, that if you see an injustice, you need to do something about it. And if you don't do something about it, then you're not meeting this particular requirement. So I think that's a great point. I do. I think that's kind of the point that we have here. Okay, the second one is to love kindness, and so the word here is chesed, which it's more than just the English kindness or mercy. It is really a loyal, steadfast, committed love for one another, a faithfulness to one another that sticks even when it's costly, and unbreakable loyalty. It's very active and deliberate, and we are to love chesed. In the prophets, it goes far beyond courtroom fairness. It's actively upholding God's standards of righteousness in everyday community life, and it involves restoring what is broken, and whatever the bottom of that says. So.
It was very important.
Okay, so let's get on. So God requires us to love kindness. So what changes when mercy or kindness is something we love instead of a command to follow? Go ahead.
When you love kindness, it changes your heart. And you don't do something because it's the right thing to do. You do it because you care.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Scott's got something over here.
The American statesman, Will Rogers, made the comment that he never met a man he didn't like. And with that attitude, you're looking for the good for that individual, seeing the good and hoping for the good, and also trying to express that from your heart to that individual, rather than being just the opposite, not being kind, being cruel, being not looking out for the well-being of others, but just seeing the best in a person when you meet him, and being able to love that individual or help that individual and overcome a negative response.
Yeah, I think having the loving kindness kind of gives you the stick-to-itiveness when the kindness isn't necessarily being rewarded. But just the fact of doing the kindness, that's our focus, is to continue to do that, and that gives us that kind of stick-to-itiveness, if you will, the glue that helps remain engaged in a situation when what we're getting back is not actually pleasurable to us or beneficial to us. And so I think when you go beyond just being kind to loving kindness, it enables you to persist. Somebody else have another thought? Okay, over here, Mary, go ahead.
If you love mercy, it's maybe not always easy, but it's going to be easier for you not to judge. Because if you love mercy, that's a quality that God has. He loves to forgive. And if we do that, then we're more like him, and we'll see the result in our life and in people around us, because they'll know they can trust us.
Great point. I'll go ahead, Jason, and then Daniel, and then we'll move on.
When you love mercy and you love kindness, it becomes your default setting. If somebody asks you in any situation what you want to do, you're going to pick something you love to do, right? And if you love mercy and kindness, it's going to be kind of your default setting, so it's going to kind of be your first reaction to things. And that can solve a lot of problems that exist in life when our first reaction is mercy or kindness, as opposed to whatever knee-jerk reaction provides a negative emotion and a negative response. But loving mercy and kindness puts that at the forefront of just who you are and how you operate.
Daniel?
Yeah, I really like that the kindness is also being translated to the loyalty, right? I think everybody, no matter how ruthless you are, no matter how much self-centered you are, everybody values loyalty. If you're loyal to the person, they value that aspect of you. So if you're seeing everybody as loyal and you're loving that about people, you're gonna love more people, right? You're gonna have more people into your circle, and to have that loyalty around you is going to help you as well. So I like the loyal part.
Great point as well. Anybody else? Okay, let's go ahead and we'll, because I want to get to the end. So the third one is to walk humbly before God. The Hebrew phrase suggests walking modestly, carefully, or with a lowly posture. It implies a daily companionship and independence, life lived consciously in God's presence, not in self-sufficiency or showiness. The walk language implies an ongoing covenant relationship. Humility is a posture before God. It's not low self-esteem, but it's a posture before God. And whatever the last sentence was. So what does it mean to walk humbly with your God? And how does that shape obedience and relationships? Who has some thoughts on? Oh, Phil.
Yeah, I think of all the things you're going to talk about tonight, this idea is what it all boils down to. Our relationship with God, on God's part, is a gift of grace. On our part, it's a humble walk. It's a humbleness, a humble spirit that recognizes I don't have the right to stand before him, even to kneel before him. But he wants that, because he understands what a relationship between him and us is like. And everything in the religion that he gave the Old Testament people was not given to them to replace his relationship with them. It was given to them so they could learn how to walk humbly with God. And when you take the legal part of it out and you start looking solely at God, it changes the dynamic of everything you do. Now it's no longer about religion and a checklist. It's about being with God in an intimate, walking into that house and saying, I want to stay here with you, and I want to embrace you daily.
Matt?
I like Emery's point about the action, and I'm going to apply it here. It's the same. It's a repeat. We've got a word that means active. It's walking. It's not passive. And it's not laying. It's not sitting. It's walking. But also, the walking is active in the sense of the journey. We're going somewhere else. He's going with us. He's taking us somewhere. There's more, I think, to me anyway, that jumps out, that it's not only active, but it's a progress. It's a movement. Going with God somewhere else.
Okay, great point. Jared?
I think primarily it means putting God before yourself and putting others before yourself, which are two very related things. When Jesus said what the greatest commandment was, it was love God, and then like that was loving others. Humility is about esteeming yourself beneath other people. And that is a primary shaper of our relationship with God and with other people.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You made another point, which is that when you look at the requirements, they very well mirror, the greatest commandment and the second greatest commandment. And so there's that consistency, but they are, they're kind of that whole thought, because God's consistent, of course, so we would expect it to be that way. Just a couple other comments that I saw was, when we're humble, we're not self-righteous, and we don't become self-righteous about, again, well, I show up to church, I give, I do all these sorts of things, and it also makes us dependent, really, on God. Okay, so we're running out of time. We won't go to that question. Did anybody have any thoughts on how they're interconnected? How these things become interconnected? So I think if you have, go ahead, Carrie Ann.
I'll make it quick. If you walking humbly with God, you learn to love the things that He loves, and the justice and mercy are things that He loves and values very highly.
Okay, great point. A couple of notes that I had real quick, and then we'll get on to the last question, which, if you have justice but you don't have mercy, that's harsh. That can be very harsh, and it can be, you can turn it into legalism, right? So having both of those together. If you have, mercy without justice is indifferent. Love without justice can ignore wrongdoing. So these things, they do work together, and they need to be taken together, and they all need to be followed. Okay, did I go too far? Okay. So how does understanding Micah 6:8 in light of the gospel, God's grace, Christ's perfect fulfillment and sacrifice change the way we approach these requirements? Anybody have any thoughts? I think we touched on it. Go ahead, Mary.
Well, with Jesus, we know that God solved the problem of balancing justice and mercy. And it's just the love on His part. It gives us great motivation, because we've seen what they didn't see, is that God solved that problem with Jesus, and only He could have done it that way.
Yes, and it gets to the point of the great motivation and what the motivating factor is. Christ sacrificed for us. He exhibited, obviously perfectly exhibited those traits, sacrificed for us, and through God's grace, we are saved. And it needs to be, again, our reaction, and it goes back to, again, And Anna's got a final comment, and then I'll make my final comment, and then we'll be done for the class.
I kind of summed it up with just start each day with reverence, seeking his guidance before moving forward.
Okay, great point. And I guess the last point I want to say is, God started again with reminding them what he did for them. And he wanted the action to be not transactional, but done out of love for him. He has done, obviously, a tremendous thing for us, that he allows us to enter in through his grace. And, doing justice, loving kindness, walking humbly, it needs to come from that point. If it comes from that point, it'll be what God is looking for. Thanks, everybody, for your participation in the class.